Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to this episode of the Auto Detailing Podcast. I'm Jimbo, and today we're going to be talking about some SEMA predictions and so products that we're going to be seeing for 2024 and beyond. When I think back to SEMA 2023, it was a severe letdown. Very little on the product innovation side. Very little on new products or new techniques or new machines. Nothing really like we've seen in the past of 2014 with Rupes announcing their Bigfoot machine. When we think about, what the spray-on ceramic craze brought for a couple years, when we looked at what Turtle Wax had done since 2019 through the COVID years, we saw, some graphene, people try out graphene, and it's so interesting. I mean, obviously, I've been doing this podcast since 2014. I very much am into kind of analyzing things and analyzing the market and kind of just sitting with, the thoughts of where the market is, whether it's or where products are at and why people are launching the products that they are. And I also have a very unique perspective because in 2016, I got hired to work for a chemical manufacturer that was responsible for a lot of the chemical guys products, as well as a lot of other private labeling brands. Up until that point, I really had no experience of the whole backside of the detailing industry. And I remember one of the first meetings that I got sat down, I felt like I knew everything. I'd been detailing since 2008. So about 8 years, previous to that. And it's almost like the curtain is pulled back and they're like, hey, Jimbo, this is kind of how the industry works. We make for these companies and we do this. And when you walk behind those other double doors to the warehouse, you're going to see a lot of these brands and it's going to kind of rock your brain a little bit. And it's going to be a culture shock to you. And I remember that feeling that I had sitting in that chair of like, wait, what? It felt like someone had taken my brain out of my body, mushed it all around, and then put it back because I almost couldn't comprehend what they were saying. Like, wait, what? Like, this brand doesn't make their own products, but they talk about that they make their own products and all their marketing. And I remember the people, looking across the desk for me, just, my jaw was on the floor and the look on their face was like, yeah, this is how it goes. Like completely unfazed, there no emotion. And from 2016 up until about 2019, I worked for that blender and learned everything there was to know about the back end of the industry. And one of the key takeaways I learned is that not every blender is good at everything. The same with not every brand is good with every single product because most brands will get from one blender, right? And that blender, for example, the blender I worked with, they were really good with the basic chemicals, your soaps, greasers, some tire shines, stuff like that. But when it came to ceramics and the cutting edge technology stuff, they were not good with that. And they also didn't outsource or innovate. So what they would do is they would repackage some of their stuff that they were good at, like some spray waxes, some detail sprays, some soaps, and then sell it in a different way. So there was a couple really good salespeople there, and they would just resell what they were good at, which I don't blame them for. I mean, they're trying to get their numbers up and they're trying to stay true with the industry, but me being kind of the insider and having this unique perspective of, knowing how to detail a car and having done that for so long, done fleet cars and all different types of detailing. And then having the podcast, so I'm talking to other people, by that time I'd had the podcast 4 or 5 years, and then realizing that I started to see the limitations of the blender. And that was when I made my exit because what I had done was I'd formed other relationships with multiple blenders. And I thought, man, the limitations of this one blender is that, if you have private label clients and they're asking for ceramics and we don't have ceramics to give them, my numbers, I don't hit my sales numbers because that's essentially what I became, was leveraging my relationships and my connections from the podcast to get private label clients. And, another client that was from a client that I brought into that blender was Shine Armor. We were making Shine Armor stuff. So take that for what it is. Again, not my direct account, but it was my direct referral, my direct connection that I brought into the blender, and I passed off to another sales guy that was responsible for Shine Armor. Not anymore. Shine Armor got smart, but that's a great example of a product that just wasn't very good for what it was being touted as because it wasn't really what it was. Imagine that. So what I decided to do was leverage my connections and relationships with other people. And I thought, okay, I can, my clients or new clients that I bring along, depending upon what they're looking for, I can choose which blender to go for. And then I kind of develop this private label consultancy business. And I do a lot of that. So I haven't really talked about that a lot in the past, but one thing I'm really trying to get back to is talking about what I'm actually doing in my day-to-day life. So for a long time, and I've talked about this, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but it's important to kind of lay the foundation for future episodes when I talk about stuff like this. Is my plan is to be a lot more open than I have been in the past years about stuff. But to be frank, when you're supplying Shine Armor, and I can't talk about Shine Armor, right? There's contracts, but all those have subsided from that account at least. And so, but I had a similar situation happen recently I talked to a brand who made a product and they really had a compelling story about the product. And I can't give too much information out because it's a current brand, but basically what was happening was they were buying my product just through someone else. So they were getting middlemaned, but then they were selling the product back to me, which was really weird and is interesting to see what happens. But that is that situation that happened, and I'll reiterate it. So a longtime friend started their own brand. I was curious about their brand, so I started asking questions about it, and I started researching it because I'm very interested in it. I like to support my friends' brands. I really do. And what happened was, as I was researching it, I started to realize a couple really unique things that are unique to things I do. So maybe a unique bottle or a unique saying or a unique sales angle or a unique formulation color or a unique scent. Everything I do is unique. So for people that want standard stuff at a cheap rate, which is honestly 90% of the people that ask for private label want something cheap that they just can market, right? So I have a blender for that. But then I also have like a 10% of clients that want something very premium, very unique, very good. Ceramic coatings, for example, right? What I think we're going to see at SEMA this year, and what I'm already starting to see trickle out, is ease of use ceramic coatings. Let me break down ease of use ceramic coatings for you guys. Ceramic coatings, when they first came out, have a very low solids amount, which is the active, expensive part of the coating, and a very high solvent, content. So from, as the chemist explains to me, when you have a high solvent, low solids, you get a very finicky coating to use. Lashes fast, hard to wipe off. But if you start to add a higher solids amount and a lower solvent amount, you get a better user experience. So I started to learn all this back in 2019. And one of the chemists, he's a blender as well, and he's just brilliant with latest and greatest future technologies, specifically when you're talking about nanotechnology and ceramics. And so back in 2019, I had access, and I began to sell this coating that had a insane work time. Like, you could apply it to a panel and wait 15 or 20 minutes to apply it, and then come back and wipe it off. And it also had insane durability, right? So what's interesting to me is I had access to that in 2019. That was the cutting edge technology in 2019. And we're just now starting to see that come at SEMA. So I think, Pan, the organizer, just did a video from Cerakote talking about their polymer, reaction plant. I've seen it. I've talked to the guy. He claims that he makes a lot of the polymer or a lot of the coatings, which is true to some extent and then very not true. And the polymer isn't the only ingredient in a coating. It's a important part of the mix, but it's like saying, hey, I use really high quality vegetable oil in my brownie mix, and so my brownie mix is the best because of my high concentrate of vegetable oil. It's not the only ingredient in the mix. So anyway, at SEMA, we're going to see a lot of easy to use coatings because the overarching theme of what people try to do when they launch a new product is change a feature about it. But the problem is that then they watch all the other brands do the same exact thing, and then it leads to what we've seen in the market for a couple years of just stagnation of like people trying stuff, but people are kind of worn out and not really trusting it. And then they wonder, well, why is it not selling? It's not enough of a difference, right? I'll elaborate more on what I think we're going to see at SEMA. But with my friend that I was talking to and congratulating him on his product line, and he had a partner and all this, I started to see a couple key things that were hinting to me that it was my coating, my product that I had sold to someone else that then had sold to someone else, right? And then I was talking to that third person. And so because I don't go behind my client's back, because that's one thing the first blender did, was they would go behind their own client's back and steal clients. I don't do that. I text my client and I said, hey, is this your guy? Like, because if it is, I'll make sure I stay clear of like, hey, this is mine, right? My client was like, yeah, it's me, it's us. And I'm like, wow, how crazy is that? So I sell a product to my client. My client sells that product to someone else. That someone else was trying to sell that product back to me. I was telling my wife, I'm like, what do I do with that? What do I do? And I can't tell them of like, hey, that's actually my product. Like, you know, I know all about it. I know more about it than you do because I actually developed that product with the chemist, you know, but I can't say that. So that sums up my life over the past couple of years. With that being said, I have a really unique and interesting perspective when I see things like, oh, our ceramic coating is now the easiest to use, or because we have a polymer reaction plant, you know, our coating's the best. And it's like, guys, we're talking 5 years ago, technology is just being released. 5 years ago. And so it frustrates me very much because it's like, this is old technology. The reason why Ceramic Pro is hard to apply is because they're using old coating technology and old formulations. The technology and nanotechnology is so far advanced because they put nanotechnology to coat, you know, Cerakote's putting it in powder coating to protect or to make it last longer. They're putting it on microchips and computers to reduce the heat from melting microchips. The technology for this is very, very advanced, and it's just very frustrating when it trickles down to the detailing industry because brands aren't actually willing to invest money into their liquids and their bottles. The industry lags behind so far. I think we saw that in 2020, 2021 with the rise of these brands like Shine Armor, The Last Coat, Torque Detail. Torque Detail was another client of mine for a while. Don't currently supply them, but did for a while there. And the thing I noticed was that they were willing to, not just Torque Detail, but a lot of these brands, willing to jump ship from a good chemical over 25 cents, 30 cents, to increase profit for that. And it never made sense to me that they would do that because why would you cheapen your liquid in the bottle if it's working and it's good? But that happens so frequently, so often that it stagnates the industry from advancing. That in turn goes to the salespeople, and the salespeople are forced to sell the product that is actually old technology. And so they have to create their own spin on it. And that's what we see happen, is that just like I saw many moons ago, almost, you know, we're coming up on 8 years since I started working at that blender. That's what would happen. The chemist couldn't get the technology right. That would force the sales guy to continue to just repackage these formulations that weren't really what they were. They would kind of resell it. Another example of that is NextGen saying they have like a really high SiO2 content at 14% or whatever. It's just not possible. That is just a story that was fed to them to sell an old school product like a spray wax as something new, you know? And so a big divide happens between the chemist or the blender either not knowing what they make, which is another problem, not knowing what they make or not knowing how to make something new, but then they pass it down to the sales guy, and the sales guy goes, this either works or it doesn't work, right? But either way, I got to sell it. Or if it doesn't work, I got to repackage and resell something else. That's where we get these outlandish claims on the bottle with a liquid that doesn't match up, which is why I started doing a torture test, why I started to talk about, you know, brands that were actually had good liquid in the bottle that matched the claims on the bottle. A chemist makes a liquid. They put it in a bottle, maybe a black bottle like this, right? They hand it to the sales guy and they said, I made a ceramic spray. The sales guy goes, great, let's try it out. They go test it out. It's a blank bottle stuff. They do, you know, some torture test. They figure out it doesn't bead water at all. And they go, crap, How am I going to sell this if it doesn't bead water, right? And then they spin it and go, I know how, right? They sit on it a couple days or whatever. They go, you actually don't want water beading. You want water sheeting, because water sheeting, water beading, when it rains on your car and then it beads water, you get water spots. So you actually want water sheeting. And then they pass this whole narrative, and it runs through the industry that water sheeting is better than water beading, all because their liquid didn't bead water, right? What's another one? Sprayable compounds are old technology. It's just, they're usually very abrasive. That's why when you see people talk about spray compounds and they're like, you don't need much, it's because you can't use a lot because they're very abrasive compounds. There's a whole host of this stuff, but it's just getting more and more frustrating to me that like old technology, and it doesn't have to be that way. So Chemical Guys is a great example. Their liquids don't have to be bad. They don't. They probably have blenders, breathing down their neck all day long that would kill to have their business and actually make really good formulations. So I don't know why Chemical Guys continues to choose to have such poor formulations in their bottle. It just gets very frustrating for me. And so at SEMA, I'm expecting to see two things: more ceramic coatings that are just easy to use. And then I think we're going to see people reverting back to just the tried and true products, like the soap that just works, right? That actually cleans a car. How about a car wash soap that actually cleans a car? It doesn't just look good in foam. How about a spray wax that just adds a ton of gloss to the paintwork? How about a glass cleaner that just works and repels water and doesn't streak? I think we're going to start to see some of that too. I think sales guys have a tough job, and they're going to have to try to spin that somehow, which I don't know how they're going to spin that. I don't know how I'm going to spin that, to be honest with you, as selling a private label chemicals. But how about just a wheel cleaner that works? And then what about new technology in wheel cleaners? And these are things that, as a behind the scenes guy and a in front of the camera guy, I'm currently working on to see how I can either bring something like this to market. Do I want to have my own brand? And that's kind of what I'm leaning towards in 2024, is like, I see a better way to do these things. And I've been playing on the sidelines for 8 years, watching, giving products to other people, letting them launch it as their own, seeing how they do it, and having tremendous success with it. To be frank, I have clients that have tremendous success, millions of dollars in sales. And I've also consulted with brands that launch stuff globally that have millions of dollars of sales over products that I've launched. And the reoccurring theme that I've noticed a lot of brands don't seem to be able to wrap their mind around is this: if you have a really cool brand and a really cool label and a really cool vibe, here is the one part that every brand misses. They have a crappy liquid in the bottle, or a subpar, because all their money went to marketing, all their money went to brand, and they didn't save enough money for the liquid in the bottle. But what I can never wrap my head around is if you just spent a little bit more money, 25 cents, 30 cents, not that much more, and you could charge more for the product, but the product was phenomenal, the liquid in the bottle was phenomenal, and then your label was phenomenal, your trigger was phenomenal, everything was a great user experience, you would sell a crap ton. And those are the brands that we see that have ultimate success, is they matched a very good packaging with a very good liquid. And so I'm considering throwing my hat in the ring in 2024 of starting my own product brand. I will not start with the ceramic anything. I am a big believer in the blue ocean strategy of things, of going where people aren't. I think it's another huge mistake for a bunch of brands launching a bunch of coatings. It's what everyone's doing. And just like I talk about on this podcast or in the Detailer Inner Circle or the Detailing Discord, which is where I will launch all this stuff first, by the way, and probably give it away for free. So make sure you go to autodetailingpodcast.com/Discord and join. You will get first alerted and free stuff, but you have to be a member to join. It's free to join, and it is $20 a month after the 30 days. I just want to give you guys 30 days to check it out. It's a community group. I call it the Discord because people recognize that, but it is just a community group. We do a ton of different things. We help you with your business. It's for the DIYer. It's for the pro. It's for everyone. It's just a concentrated group where we could talk detailing best practices, how to work through things together without all the crap and hype of like a Facebook group. So anyway, all that to say, I may throw my hat in the ring. I may not. I'm still wrestling with it, but I think I'm just getting to the point where I'm tired of seeing brands do things differently than I think I would do it. And then brands doing things that align with how I think I would do it, and then having tremendous success. And I think for me, it's just time that I, take all my experience from, starting detailing in 2008, starting this podcast in 2014, between 2008 and 2014, doing fleet cars, tons of washes, 20 cars a day, to, one-off coating jobs, thousands of dollar jobs, to having a unique perspective starting in 2016 to work for a chemical manufacturer, to 2019, 18, starting out my own private label consultancy and seeing clients having tremendous success with that, me having tremendous success with that, throwing in there working for a global brand that are launching products and continue to do that consultant work, all the while detailing a little bit less because that was my end goal. But now I think I'm getting to the point where, and please, if I am way wrong in this, please send me a message and just say, Jimbo, stay in your lane. Do what you're doing, bro. Stay in your lane. But what I'm thinking about is, since 2008, so I'm coming up on 14 or 15 years in the industry, covering a wide variety of not only how to detail cars, but seeing the back end of how things truly work, being in those behind the scenes meetings, having the curtain totally pulled back on me, picking my job off the ground and all that. Of that, I think I have something to offer. And I think I have a unique perspective. And that's what I saw with a couple of these brands that launched. I was there before Projet launched. I was a part of that. Most of their products were named by me. Most of the product descriptions were written by me. And I brought all those brands in to sponsor the podcast from time to time. And so, I don't know, when we launched that Projet brand, a lot of people said, what makes you different? And that was a hard question. And most people say, well, I'm the blender, I'm the chemist, I'm that, I'm this. I'm better than Meguiar's, I'm better than Turtle Wax, I'm better than this. And so for me, I never wanted to launch my own brand because I didn't think I had anything unique enough to offer. But I think that's changing. That's what I think is going to be launching at SEMA. More ceramics. I think graphene is not going to go anywhere as of now. We may see that resurface later. I don't think we're going to see much graphene at all. What we're going to see is more wipe-on ceramic coatings. We're going to see that start to trickle down to the DIYer as people realize that the DIY and the prosumer market is much bigger than the professional market. I think we're definitely done and over the days of territories and blocking out territories. I think we're going to see a lot of detailers transitioning to PPF, window tinting, all that. But for the detailing industry specifically, a lot of ease of use wipe-on coatings, because that is a telltale sign that it's dropping down in price. It's dropping down to the consumer level. So if you're running a detail shop, if you're not commanding those $1,000, $1,500 jobs anymore, you're not landing them. This is a warning to adjust your pricing, because those coatings are going to start dropping down to that consumer level. Why? Because they will sell more. The brands will sell more coating. And that's what they're after, is profitability, which is what we should all be after. I'm not mad at the brands at all. So as this marketing speak becomes an easy to use coating, it's dropping in price, dropping down to the consumer level, dropping down more, and they're going to speak more to that consumer more than the professional. So just a fair warning to that, okay? And I also think we're going to see more kind of reverting back to just the tried and true chemicals that we had, especially if we pair this with a little market correction. People are going to still spend money. Don't worry about that. They're just going to really be careful with where they're spending their money. So you need to make sure your business is dialed in. If you're a detailer, make sure that you are on it with your marketing, your Google business listing. And we could help with all those things inside the Discord. You can hear from other detailers what's working for them, what's not working for them. And most importantly, staying on the cutting edge, looking for that blue ocean to where no one's around, those marketing strategies where no one's around. And trust me, when you pair up with someone like me who has this vast amount of experience through different parts of the industry that I don't know if anyone else does have. Sure, there's like the Mike Phillips who've jumped around from different brands and stuff like that, but a lot of these guys didn't detail for as long, or they've been out of it for a while, and the proof is in what they're currently doing. So I know there's a lot of people that have been around for a long time, but if you look at what they're currently doing, you realize that they really didn't have too much access, where I feel like I've had a ton of access, and I'm ready to start sharing some of that access as much as I can. And so obviously all this first will go out to the Discord. So those are kind of my tight circle. I have the detailer inner circle. That's for your CRM, your marketing, running your detailing business. But if you're a DIYer, a consumer, a prosumer, a pro detailer, the community group or the Discord is where you're at. That's autodetailingpodcast.com/Discord. I'm heading to SEMA tomorrow. So this podcast will come out later and we'll kind of do a follow-up of what I saw at SEMA. And so, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that one. I hope you enjoy hearing more of me being a little bit more transparent. I don't know if that's going to resonate, but I have to get back to the place of just talking about what I'm currently doing. So that's what I'm most excited about. So hope you guys enjoyed that podcast episode, and I will catch you guys on the next one. See ya.